Season 10 of Enlisted's Battle Pass has brought out arguably the best overall set of weapons the game has ever seen. And not just in terms of power, but in terms of uniqueness too. The first one we'll analyze is the Mexican monster, the Mondragon M1908. And it has a really interesting history, so buckle in. The only weapon in the game that has a connection to this Latin American country, it was made by Mexican artillery officer General Manuel Mondragon. I definitely pronounced that right. And the M1908 specifically was the first version that led to Mexico's first self-loading or semi-automatic rifle. It was the first semi-auto to be adopted by a national military anywhere in the world, the Mexican army, and was named fully as the
Fusil Porfirio Díaz Sistema Mondragón Modelo 1908.
Yeah, what she said. Which includes the name of future Mexican president, Porfirio Díaz. I nailed that one. The Swiss Industrial Company, or SIG, were only able to sell to Mexico around 400 of the 4,000 rifles ordered from them by 1910 due to the Mexican Revolution, high unit cost, and the rifle's inability to cope with the poor quality of ammunition available at this time. Therefore, the Mexican government cancelled the order. Interestingly enough, though, the Modelo 1908 rifle was fitted with a bipod and a knife bayonet, but also a spade bayonet. None of these are present on the in-game version though, which is a little bit of a shame. In 1914, however, the German Empire caught wind of developments in Switzerland and bought up the remainder of SIG's M1908 rifles that were not sold to Mexico, in numbers close to the full 4,000 of them. Tests by the German army proved to be highly susceptible to fouling caused by mud and dirt in the trenches. In more research kindly provided by Pavel, our resident historian over on Discord, we know that instead, the Imperial German Flying Corps, the
Luftstreitkräfte.
Yes, what she said, decided to adopt the rifle because being in the air made it, well, putting it simply, less prone to such issues. They gave 2 rifles to each aircraft's crew, and it was a major improvement over the existing weaponry. So it was redesignated as the
Flieger Selbstladekarabiner, Modell 1915.
Yes, what she said. Again, and was given some insane 30-round drum magazines, which led to the development of the one that's used on the artillery Luger, a different yet arguably more unique gold weapon order in Enlisted. Pavel also tells us that there was a 10-round magazine initially used by Mexicans, and a 12-round adaptation made by the Swiss, even a very rare 20-round example, though luckily for us in-game we get the massive 30-round version. When machine guns became more common in aircraft though, the Mondragon was phased out and instead passed to the Imperial German Navy's destroyer crews, in literally an armed forces equivalent of sloppy seconds. Very few of the rifles survived World War I and many were scrapped, but Mexico used a few in their own revolution and exported in small numbers more to Germany, Vichy France, China, and the Soviets. The Japanese Empire and Austria elected to produce some of these rifles, with some being fitted with optic scopes for snipers, though the Mondragon was also used by guerrilla forces in the Philippines fighting against the Japanese too. A Mexican weapon being used halfway around the world in an Asian quarrel. Not something I expected to hear from this video, I'm not gonna lie. And in game, well, it's simply fantastic. It can be used by the Germans and Italians in all campaigns bar the Pacific, and if you do get them all, then you can obtain up to 5 of them, making them only the second gold order weapon in the entire game which you can get 5 of. Though, my advice is to get these in the Moscow and Tunisia campaigns, because the Mondragon is simply better than all the other rifle class weapons you can get in those 2 for now. This therefore means it's better than the ZH-29 and Gewehr 41, but also the Gewehr 43, making this Dragon of Mon the best Axis purely semi-auto. And if you don't know why, you just need to look at the magazine size. 30 rounds is mind-blowing for this game. That being said, you may pick up on the fact that it has a long 4-second reload time, but the alternative reload, the reload time when you still have 1 or more bullets left in the magazine, for this weapon is just 3 seconds. So realistically, it's still on par with every other rifle, and is not a nerf. The sights, however, are reminiscent of Katana rifles' sights, and they are, in fairness, an acquired taste, but the devs also gave it a unique firing sound. I give it a whopping 8.7 on my gold weapon leaderboard, not only because of power but because of uniqueness and just coolness as well, which could have been even higher with better sights. You can decide for yourself though what you think of it or any of the other weapons in this video by testing them in my friend Staro's custom mod, which he made for this video to try out all gold order weapons, link in the description. Next up we'll go for the Western Allies' Farquhar-Hill M1918, which is such a great name by the way, and from the year designation in its name you might correctly assume it was a World War I weapon. In fact, it was designed and patented by the British duo of Marbury and Arthur in 1908, like the Mondragon, and equally was one of the first semi-automatic rifles ever designed. But adoption of this was delayed that extra 10 years because British officers were not ready for semi-autos yet. Eventually, it was tested on the Western Front of World War I, with success on the ground and by observers in aircraft, and officially it was adopted in 1918 with a request of a very, very large 100,000 rifles. The end of World War I, on the 11th of November 1918, prevented much of the initially planned production, however. It was not used in World War II at all according to official records, which makes it unique as far as enlisted weapons go. Though interestingly, an LMG variant's comeback, the Beardmore Farquhar MG, was attempted, but it was unsuccessful. Traditionally, and in-game, it had a 19-round drum magazine, but a 10-round and an insane 65-round drum mag was seen occasionally. Now, if it had this in-game, man, it would just be over for the Axis. In a similar fashion to the Mondragon, if you want to get this rifle, you should be doing it in the Tunisia campaign for maximum efficacy and the lowest opportunity cost. And not just because the British are in this campaign. Put it this way, if you're not using the M2 carbine in any campaign where you have it unlocked and available, then you're basically just team griefing. Tunisia, though, doesn't have this rifle, so you're just swapping it out for the M1 Garand or Johnson rifles. And the Farquhar is significantly better than both in all of damage, which, by the way, is so high, so you are guaranteed to one-hit kill or down an enemy at even over 100 meters away. And if they have the plus 35% vitality perk, which is absolutely nutty, as well as excellent recoil and magazine size. Quite simply, it's the best, purely semi-automatic rifle for the Western Allies, and will still be so after the major updates with campaigns merging, with perhaps only the Turner SMLE Premium Squad being able to compete with it. It also has much better sights than the Mondragon, yet perhaps the only negative is that in its current state, this British weapon doesn't have a bayonet. No knives? British? Blasphemy. But regardless, this weapon scores another very high 7 out of 10 on my full gold weapon leaderboard, just below last Battle Pass season's machine guns WAR and FN Model 1930. Regardless though, it's very good, and a weapon you'll never regret buying. Third up is the Soviets gun for Battle Pass 10, the SVT-40 with a Bubnov drum magazine. Now you're probably thinking, how is this different to the standard SVT-40 in the campaign tree? Well, it's magazine. That's it. Literally. It's the same in every single stat except reload speed and magazine size. It even still has a bayonet, but that's not to detract away from it. It's literally a better SVT-40. Now, if you love Tokarev's self-loading rifle range, you'll definitely love this one. It's just not the most, unique of the 4 on offer this season. Similarly to the previous 2 mentioned in this video, once again, it's simply the best, purely semi-automatic rifle for the Soviets across all campaigns, which is especially important for when the campaign merge arrives and converts all weaponry into a sole faction, and each weapon will have its own battle rating. So it is confirmed to be a great weapon, but it doesn't have an alternative reload speed. It reloads the same way no matter how many bullets you've got left in the magazine. The reason this section is so short is because there's very little information about the Bubnov drum magazine variants for Pavel to find, even in Russian sources. What we do know is that there is only one of these in the Tula Arsenal Museum, located just south of Moscow, that it was never adopted officially, and the magazine design was by M.I. Skvortsov and S. Bubnov, who initially planned it for the AVT-40 rifle. It scores a very high and respectable 6.9 out of 10, basically equal to the earlier Farquhar, but you could put either over the other depending on whether you prefer damage and lower recoil, the Farquhar to lower reload speed, smaller sight, and an extra round per magazine. The SVT with Bubnov. The last one that we have to talk about is the Type A sword pistol, which is definitely the most difficult on this list to evaluate. I mean, look at it. In short though, it's literally the free campaign unlock Type 14 pistol combined with a Shinganto Type 95 blade, and it still counts as a sidearm class weapon, essentially meaning you can run double sword loadouts in-game, though you can't literally equip them at the same time to make double swords. Sag. What isn't Sag though is the fact that you can bayonet charge with this pistol for lightning speed and also one slice kill enemies much more efficiently than any other melee weapon. Some statistics on this pistol have been mildly adjusted as well. It has a slightly higher reload speed, lower vertical but higher horizontal recoil, which is noticeable, I should mention, and half of the aim down sight speed. I'm guessing that's because there's a whole sword attached on top of it. One of these was captured by the Americans during the Pacific campaign of World War II, showing a combined 7mm Type 14 pistol and an an officer's sword. It's been said that it's quite likely the owner constructed this on his own initiative, like an absolute maniac. Strangely though, the original version did not have a trigger. This raises all sorts of questions, such as whether it was never designed to actually shoot bullets, but to only be able to be used as holding, as more of a familiar handgun, or whether the trigger just broke off. Who knows? What we do know is that this thing is unique, but not the most powerful. It's a major increase in power to any and all pistols in the entire game, but remember, it's still a pistol. For this reason, it scores a middle of the pack 5.2 out of 10, just above the equally hard to evaluate RMN50 mortar hand cannon. You definitely need to try this one out for yourself, if not only for the memes. My full gold weapon leaderboard is on screen now. Remember that the scores are changing every episode of the series as the meta shifts. If you want to keep binging gold order stuff, then you should learn about the awesome machine gun unique weapons from the previous Battle Pass season. They're like BARs, but just cooler, and arguably more powerful. Trust me. Special thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members, including Kitsune Lord 91, Vertix, Ecolo QE, WowJustWow100, and Hilbster.